Could the Philadelphia Eagles trade Haason Reddick to the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, you heard me right. A Haason Reddick trade to the Dallas Cowboys? That's what we're talking about on today's Eagles Now, because according to a report from a Cowboys insider, Dallas is interested in the Eagles pass rusher. First, today's show is sponsored by 8 Sleep. Get $200 off and free shipping on the pod cover by going to 8sleep.com/chatsports. Sleep better, and really sleep is at the backbone of everything that we do and our success as human beings. We'll tell you more about what they have to offer coming up here in just a little while. So as for where things stand on the Haason Reddick front, he's entering the final year of that 3-year, $45 million deal that he inked with Philadelphia going into the 2022 season. It's been a bargain deal for the Eagles. 16 sacks in year 1, 11 sacks in year 2, and here he is, final year of his contract. It's non-guaranteed, and the going rate for top-tier edge rushers is a little bit more than about the $15 million in average annual value that the Eagles have paid him. Haason Reddick is not a dumb man. He studied at Temple University. Just like yours truly, he knows that he's worth a lot more than that, and that's why he is seeking a contract extension. All of this comes down to the big looming question. What is Haason Reddick seeking on that new deal? Because he looks at the inflation with the salary cap going up. He looks at some of the other upper echelon edge rushers getting paid a lot of money, and he knows that right now his salary is coming in below market value. He wants to get compensated like one of the best edge rushers. So that's his side of this entire scenario and situation. As for Philadelphia's, what are they willing to pay him? They, of course, know they're going to have to go north of $15 million. Are they willing to go up to 20? Are they willing to go up more than $20 million every single year if that's what Reddick wants? Now, I was just in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. We spoke with Howie Roseman. We spoke with Nick Sirianni about what's going on the Reddick front. And here's what the Eagles general manager and the Eagles head coach had to say.
Well, I'd say this. Haason, obviously, unbelievable player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Local kid, great success story. Camden, Temple, Philly. Love having Haason. I think that, anything that you're trying to do, you're trying to blend, obviously, what you're trying to do this year and how you're going to look in the future. And I think that's the hardest job. But certainly, don't want to get into any specifics with any conversations with players, but have tremendous respect for the player and the person.
In terms of what's the best case scenario?
I think honest communication is the best case scenario with all your players, and understanding where you stand and not being afraid to have open doors of communication and hearing where they feel and where we feel.
Obviously, we'll see how that plays out. I don't know how that will play out. Obviously, Haason's been awesome for us these last 2 years. Big reason why we've been to the playoffs the last 2 years is the contributions of Haason. He's played really outstanding football. So, we'll see how that plays out, and hopefully he's an Eagle.
Now, obviously, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni understand that Haason Reddick is a really, really special player. He wakes up and he's going to give you double-digit sacks every single season. He lives and breathes football and attacking the opposing quarterback. And when you look at the highest-paid edge rushers per year, where does Reddick fall in this category here? Because he's currently not inside the top 10, and I imagine he thinks that he's a top 10 edge rusher. He's not going to overtake T.J. Watt, who's making $28 million per year, or Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, Max Crosby. But you look in the Bradley Chubb range, Trey Hendrickson, Von Miller, who didn't even play for the Buffalo Bills because he's washed and not good anymore, and then Harold Landry at $17.5 million. There's absolutely no question that Reddick deserves to be in that conversation. Is he in the tier 1 of edge rushers, like a Nick Bosa, who's making a $30 million per year number, which is extraordinarily high? No, but he's right below that tier, in my opinion, because take a look at his numbers over the last 4 years, right? 11 sacks in 2023, 16 sacks in 2022, 11 in 2021, and in 2020, 12 and a half sacks. That's the elite production at all these different stops, too. So it's not like he's had a lot of continuity at the franchises that he's been playing with. Arizona, Carolina, last 2 years with Philadelphia. So that's why this conversation is very interesting, and that's why Howie Roseman, in the clip that we showed you, kind of playing things coy a little bit because he doesn't want to reveal what the plans are and what the thinking is for Philadelphia, and I'm sure he knows from Reddick's agent about what the price point is. Also, keep in mind, going into free agency, which starts on Monday, you don't want to miss our coverage, so make sure you subscribe, that number could change because the market could change as well. As for that report from a Cowboys insider, it's Mike Fisher. He said this: the Philadelphia Eagles are once again about to make some difficult choices regarding how to balance a loaded roster inside the salary cap, which is why the idea of trading sackmaster Haason Reddick is a very real one. And an NFL source tells CowboysSI.com that the idea of the Dallas Cowboys investigating ways to acquire Reddick is real. The Cowboys have, quote, respect for Reddick as well, which is why our source mentions Dallas and Jacksonville among the teams that are interested in making a move. There are rumors mentioning Detroit, Houston, and New England here, but we have not confirmed. And you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Peterson never coached Haason Reddick, but he's very familiar with what the Eagles are doing. My issue with that report, you're acting like the Eagles have money issues. It's not the case. Philadelphia has nearly $40 million in cap space after the Kevin Byard release, and they have opportunities to free up even more money on the salary cap. And the idea of trading Haason Reddick to the Cowboys, I'm sorry, I don't want to get too graphic. It makes me want to puke. Haason Reddick in a Cowboys uniform with the Dallas star on his helmet? Yuck. Like, that's one of these self-induced throw-ups that you have to just sometimes do after you get the spins late night with the homies, just knowing that you're trying to feel better the next day. I just can't even envision it. So, if you also get sick by the thought of Haason Reddick going to the Dallas Cowboys, you know the motto all the time, Philadelphia stand up. It's always, go Birds! And it's always, F Dallas. Type that down in the comment section right now. More to come here on the show just around the corner, but first, as I mentioned off the rip, sleep is at the backbone of our success as human beings. And I posed that question a little bit earlier. Do you want to sleep better? Do you want a sleep to power a whole new you? Do you want to kickstart the year fully charged? Well, you got to do it with the 8 Sleep Pod Cover. Get up to $200 off and free shipping at 8sleep.com/chatsports. The Pod Cover will improve your sleep. Get this, by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. The cover can be added to any bed like a fitted sheet, and it allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed as low as 55 degrees and up to 110 degrees. Producer Smitty and Riley, they love this thing. There's no better way to improve your day-to-day life better than sleep, and the easiest way to do that is with the 8 Sleep Pod 3 cover. Start the new year right and invest in the rest that you deserve with the 8 Sleep Pod. With the images that we've been showing you, you can power everything right from the power of your smartphone. You want to go down to 55 degrees? You can do that. You want to go up to 110 degrees? Do you sleep cooler? Your significant other sleeps a little bit warmer? That's fine, because each side of the Pod 3 cover can be adjusted to your needs, as you can see here in this photo. So one more time, 8sleep.com/chatsports, $200 off, free shipping on the Pod Cover by 8 Sleep. Invest in the rest that you deserve with the 8 Sleep Pod. I promise you at some point I will catch up on my sleep. National Championship in Houston in January, Super Bowl in Las Vegas in February, and then the NFL Combine to kick off March. All right, speaking of the NFL offseason here, Combine wraps up, and then today is the deadline for franchise tags to be given to players. That happened at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central Time, and 1 o'clock on the West Coast. And let's run through a couple of players here. So T. Higgins gets the non-exclusive tag. I imagine the Bengals, even though they're just an incredibly cheap organization, want to do everything they can to lock up Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase for the future. L'Jarius Sneed also got the non-exclusive tag. We talked about him last week on the show with Sam Monson of Pro Football Focus, their lead NFL analyst, and I threw out the possibility of maybe the Eagles trading for L'Jarius Sneed, but to give him a contract extension and to give something up seems a little bit too rich, although Sneed was really good this past year with 14 pass breakups. We'll see what Kansas City does here. They did not franchise tag Chris Jones, of course. Are they going to be able to keep both Sneed and Chris Jones, two critical components of that Chiefs defense, which I thought at the end of the year was the best in the NFL? Brian Burns got the non-exclusive tag, so that's $24 million guaranteed for 2024 for one of the best sack artists in the entire NFL. 8 sacks this past year and 12 the year before that. Justin Matabuke, really good defensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens. 6'3", 293, but moves so quick on the interior. He had 13 sacks for Baltimore. That's the most for any defensive lineman for the Ravens in a really, really long time. They're going to see if they can work on a long-term deal with him. He gets the non-exclusive tag. Antoine Winfield would have been a dream free agent target for me because his Pro Football Focus grades were so good last year. He's still in his mid-20s. Would have loved him for Philadelphia, but Buccaneers have been busy. Mike Evans' contract extension, $25 million per, and they're going to look to lock up Antoine Winfield on the back end for a long time, as well as Baker Mayfield. Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars giving Josh Allen the non-exclusive tag, 17.5 sacks in 2023. Ever really since he got drafted, he's been one of the best edges in the NFL, really quick and twitchy with some bend coming off the edge. And while Haason Reddick is like 240 pounds and they're similar players, Josh Allen is taller and weighs more at 6'5", 262. Jalen Johnson, one of the best young emerging cornerbacks in the National Football League. If he hit the open market, I think Howie Roseman would have been all over this type of player. Analytically really good. He's young, still ascending, still some good football left in him. Not a lot of signs of wear and tear. Chicago, most cap space in the NFL, and they are equipped with the number 1 overall pick and pick number 9. And then Kyle Duggar, another player who I would have liked for Philadelphia, especially in Vic Fangio's scheme, because he could play all over the place. Safety, hybrid linebacker, in the box. He can make tackles against the run. 108 tackles last year for New England. When Bill Belichick really likes you, that's a sign that you're a dog. Played his college football at Lenoir-Rhyne. I'm pretty sure that's the D2 school that played Westchester University in the national championship a few years ago, and my guy from Bayard Rustin High School, Rondell White, was one of the college players of the year that year. That's a D2 power in the Division II ranks. Players not tagged of note, and they now become free agents, which in turn, maybe some of these players become free agent targets for the Eagles here. Chris Jones, just the best defensive tackle in the game. I think he's been better than Aaron Donald over the last couple of years. Christian Wilkins, very good defensive tackle as well. Not to the level of Chris Jones, but kind of like how Haason Reddick isn't in that tier 1 range. He's kind of in that 1B range. I'd say the same for Wilkins. Fascinated to see what happens with the running backs in this free agency period. You have Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs not tagged. They become free agents. Derrick Henry, also a free agent. Do any of these backs get more than $10 million per year? That's what I want to know. That would be a good over-under bet. Michael Onwenu played offensive tackle and guard for New England. I think he's better suited as a guard, but New England played him a lot at left tackle for an offensive line needy team. He certainly fits that bill. All signs point to Baker Mayfield going back to the Bucs. That's everything that I gathered in Indianapolis and talking with people. Calvin Ridley, Xavier McKinney. Spent a couple of moments talking about those two players. Calvin Ridley played with Jalen Hurts at Alabama, and I've said it multiple times this offseason. I think wide receiver 3 is a sneaky big need for the Eagles. I'd rather them address it in the draft to get a player where you kind of reset that wide receiver clock a little bit. You give Devontae Smith that contract extension. Clip about Howie Roseman talking about that on the channel right now on our shorts page. A.J. Brown's under contract. You get that rookie who's under wraps for the next 4 or 5 years. This is a deep wide receiver class. But Calvin Ridley's not going to break the bank. He's a little bit older, had the gambling suspension in 2022. In 2023, he sneakily had more than 1,000 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, and that Jags offense kind of fell apart late in the year. Him as a wide receiver 3, where he can go inside, outside, allowing Devontae Smith to go inside, outside. Then you have A.J. Brown as your full-time X, and you have Dallas Goedert in this past game. The possibilities of that, with Kellen Moore calling the plays, I like that a lot. And as we know, the Eagles are in need of a safety. Xavier McKinney is a very good one. When we were talking with Joe Shane, Giants general manager, he said, we really want to sign Xavier McKinney to a long-term deal. Franchise tag is not out of the realm of possibility. They don't give him the franchise tag, so he becomes an unrestricted free agent as well. And he's one of the best safeties in the NFL last year, a team captain, allowed a completion rate of 62.3%, only 288 yards, no touchdowns in coverage. And him on the back end for the Eagles, that's a player that brings you leadership and brings you ball skills and just brings you solid overall play. We obviously talked about C.J. Gardner-Johnson on yesterday's video. There's some buzz or reunion could be in store. If you're still hanging out with us here on the show, type Real One down below. We appreciate you for supporting the show. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll catch you next time here on Eagles Now. And as always, go Birds.